What is going on to all my Marvel MCU Skrull Secret Invasion fans out there? We are here. The aliens have arrived, Amanda. It's perfect timing, to say the least. But myself and Amanda, who you all can see on the screen now, who we have Skrulls, we got Nick Fury back. It's an invasion going on, and we are here to talk about the first episode. Before we get into it, I want to thank y'all for clicking on the video. Do us a favor if you're enjoying the conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up. Consider sharing. Comments. I want to know what y'all thought about this episode. We open up in Moscow, present day, which I think they've clarified online. It takes place after She-Hulk, which I think is we're in the MCU timelines all over the place. I think we're 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's go with it.
Present day. We'll just say present day. And they already showed the scene online where we get Agent Ross, who is kind of, behind the corners, being very, again, spy espionage. She's meeting with this other agent by the name of Agent Prescott, who I believe first time we've met this character. And he has some information for Agent Ross, Amanda, and that is there's a conspiracy that he has involving Skrulls. And as he's detailing this information, he gives us kind of exposition for those that might forgot that Nick Fury and Captain Marvel back in their film established they were promised to give the Skrulls a place to live, which just kind of thinking about it, Amanda, it's like you want two people to find a settlement for 1 million people. It's like that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on two people, but we'll get into that. But just that first scene, Amanda, again, we talk about the grittiness, the spy espionage. What did you think about this opening scene as it is before we get to the ultimate reveal? How did you feel about the tone and the scene? And did it work for you, just kind of setting the stage?
I love this opening. I loved it. I think we don't give credit to Martin Freeman because he's such a minor character, but he's been so consistent throughout the MCU. And I really love that we saw him in this opening. But the tone is so different than what we've seen with other shows and almost in line with Black Widow. But I think it's a bit darker, which I can appreciate. And it just... even like the score creeping in, coming out of the shadows, the action in this opening, it felt a lot like our favorite film, The Winter Soldier. So I think that's why like it clicked for me. I think it clicked for you as well, because it just has that hint of something so familiar. And I think that's what I've personally been missing from the Phase 4 MCU films, is that familiarity of what the MCU was. That's what I got here. And you got the information that you needed, even though it was a little bit, there was exposition. I don't think a lot of people are that tied to Captain Marvel to remember.
That's a great point, Amanda.
I want to say it like I said it in my review. I'm like, no one remembers Captain Marvel. I had to be like
rewatchable.
It's not.
Which, if I'm being honest, not to cut you off, I might revisit Captain Marvel sometime in the middle of this show, or maybe at the end of the show, because there were like, oh yeah, that did happen in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many, right? And then the placement of Captain Marvel. I'm getting off topic, but anyways, this opening I really liked. It gave me even the title for Moscow. That gave me Civil War vibes at the same time. So it falls in line with what we're familiar with Captain America. So if you are a fan of Captain America, like everything to do with Cap, then I'm pretty sure people will like Secret Invasion, especially because of this opening.
I agree. The tone, the seriousness, which just initially, not only this episode, but episode 2 as well, there's no jokes. There's no games being played. Of course, there's like a tongue-in-cheekness to Nick Fury and his kind of banter and Olivia Colman's banter, but this is a very serious show, which I very much so appreciate. Him getting the information. Ross is being very dismissive, which it played before we get to reveal who Ross was, but it plays into his character, because when we first met Ross in Black Panther, he was very dismissive to Claw when he told him about Wakanda. He was like, really? But so it plays well. It's like, okay, this might be Ross. But as he goes on, Prescott shows him that he has something that will set the world on fire, because he discovers these plans, which is later revealed in this episode to be the dirty bombs. But Prescott senses. Now, I don't know. Again, I've seen episode 2 times, Amanda. I don't know if it was something Ross said or if it was just Prescott knows him so well because he seemed to, they seem to have already established a relationship that he trusts Ross only. But did Ross say something that made him trigger that he knew it wasn't him, or it was just a sense of like, oh yeah, I'll give this to feel like it wasn't, he was so nonchalant about it? Like, was there something that I missed that made Prescott know that he was ultimately a Skrull?
I think for me, it was I don't remember exactly what was said about Nick Fury, but it was, I think that's what set Prescott off, because it didn't make sense for Ross to either say that about Fury or like want that information for Fury. So it was like really weird. And that's when I kind of knew, I picked up on like it shifted in the room, like you could feel that. And that's something that they do extremely well in this show. Like in this first episode, I was really impressed with. But I think that was the switcheroo. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening?
That's I mean, to that point, that's what I think there's going to be the brilliant kind of capturing of the audience moments. Like, who's a Skrull? Who do we know? Because again, when we probably revisit it from once they release all the 6 episodes, there might be cues to when the audience can know. Like, I don't know if it's like what Ross is wearing, the color scheme. Like when you mentioned he was walking in the shadows, I don't know if there was like a tent, because when he was being chased by who we later find out to be Talos, there's like this green tent or a purple tent when he was like running away from him. So I wonder if when we rewatch the entire series, if there will be like, oh, that's how you can distinguish when it's like a Skrull or not. But so far, I couldn't tell you who's a Skrull. And I didn't know it was going to be Ross to be a Skrull, because as we see Talos, well, we don't know him to be Talos at first, but we have a person chasing him, and we see Ross jumping to another building, and he falls, he injures himself, and we like, oh my goodness, we're about to witness the death of Ross. But as it's revealed that it isn't Ross, that it is a Skrull. But the question I have for you, Amanda, and this is where the speculation and the whole theories come into play, how long do you think that Ross was a Skrull? Because again, going back to the last time we saw Agent Ross was in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and we know that he was broken out by Okoye and things like that. So are we under the impression that Ross was a Skrull from like the first Black Panther Wakanda, or we're just assuming that Ross was just a Skrull for this particular scene?
That is an excellent question, because now I'm like doubting everything.
So that's the I guess let us know in the comments, guys. How long do you think Ross was a Skrull, and are we assuming that he's been a Skrull? Because as this episode alludes to, Amanda, when we get to a later exposition scene, they harvest the humans. Like, it's not like when we saw them in Captain Marvel, it was just like they take their identity and they just move on to the next, and you can't see who it are. But now they're like using them as shells, and we find out later in the episode, the longer you stay in the shell, the longer it's hard to disguise them and all that different stuff. So again, this is interesting. Have we been witnessing a Ross Skrull this whole time from his introduction to MCU, or like you just mentioned, was it between Black Panther, or if it was just a scene? Are we assuming that Ross is held up in one of these harvest places? So we'll find out. We will find out. But that's the beauty of the show so far, is making you wonder, who is this? Because, and not to get back into, because now I'm just thinking about that scene when Ross calls to Agent Hill. How would that Skrull have access to Agent Hill without having stolen Ross's identity completely to have access to a CIA, Agent Hill's like undercover. So it makes you even think more that, maybe Ross has been a Skrull this whole time if he has Maria Hill on like speed dial.
Undercover. Like, oh my goodness.
Amanda. But I will say something I did love, not only from this opening scene, was opening credits. I'm a fan of a good opening credit, Amanda. And I think from the MCU shows, there hasn't been many of them. No, Loki had they did the changing letters. Wanda didn't really have one. Hawkeye, none of them. I think Moon Knight might have, but not to the extent of this. This is like full on credits, who's in the show. And I saw your review on this, which again, guys, check out Amanda's channel. You had mentioned how the title sequence plays into the narrative. We're seeing the kind of invasion-esque nature of the show with the whole title card of them taking over the White House, them taking over the world, and the green colors taking over the atmosphere of the Earth. So I love a good opening credit, Amanda. And again, to elaborate on it more, what did you think about the opening credits?
I loved it. I think I'm a massive fan of the Daredevil Netflix show opening credits. So anything that comes close to like that, or they just pay attention to the comic book run. They pay attention to that, like the source material. And I think that showrunners here, you can tell just by that opening credit that they care about the material, because for me, like you said, when you just see the green kind of taking over places, that is tying into the narrative, and it's foreshadowing what could possibly happen, because the last shot technically before Secret Invasion comes on, like the actual title, the entire Earth is green. Ooh. So like it's not like spoiling anything, but that's just something to like keep in mind, that is
a looming threat. It's a fear from an audience perspective that this world, MCU world, has been or being infiltrated from a big threat, which in this episode, and we'll get into some of my criticisms, I didn't really feel the threat of the Skrulls and Captain Marvel. But in this episode, they did more legwork to make me as an audience be like, they're no jokes. Like they're serious. They kill some people, thousands of people in this episode, which we'll talk about. So I definitely agree with you on that title sequence, Amanda, that it shows this looming threat, that these aren't just wash away, throw away villains. They're going to be here. They have been here for a while, and they want to take over the Earth. Let us know, again, talked about Ross. How long has that man been in Skrull? Is he being held somewhere at a Harvest Bay? But let us know in the comments. And again, Amanda and I really appreciate you all listening to today's review. We're actually going to talk about episode 2 after this, but it'll be released next week, so keep an eye out for that. But again, like, share, comment. Amanda, if you want to let people know where they can find you, what do you have? We're pre-recording this, so what do you have lined up for this week leading into the weekend for the people to enjoy?
Well, this is fun as usual. It always is. So you guys can always follow me over at AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And you can check out my YouTube, Candid Cinema, which I think I'll have my own Secret Invasion episode 1 review is up, and then I still have to do my episode 2. I have Asteroid City. My review for that should be up as well, and then we have Indy 5 as well coming up. So I think within the next 2 weeks of when episode 2 drops as well, that's what I have planned for the channel. So come on over there.
A lot of great stuff. So definitely subscribe to her channel. Amanda, thank you for joining me. We're in the past. We're going to talk about episode 2 that you all will see in the future. But before then, subscribe to her channel. Check out all the content that we have on the channel now, and we will catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.